Welcome back. This is the last video of a series of 3 videos that explains how to successfully set up literature circles in your classroom. And in this video, I'm going to show you the worksheets that I actually give the students. So if you remember back from video 1, I explained how the kids get binders and I keep all their essential materials in that binder. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of the stuff that appears in that binder. So from video 2, at the end of the video, you are working with your class to create guidelines and acceptable behaviors and expectations for literature circles. So this is actually some of the stuff that my kids created at the beginning of this year. And what I did was I typed it up and printed it out, and it goes right in the front of that binder. So the first things they see when they open that binder are the guidelines, because they need to be reminded, you want to take the time at the beginning of every class period when you have a literature circle to say, okay, let's review the expectations and the guidelines of literature circles. It could be May and you're still doing this because you don't ever want to expect that they remember, because they don't. So you want to take a few minutes to read through this at the beginning of every class. So some of the things that we said are being respectful, and what that means is no judging, positively disagree, and you could do a whole lesson on what it means to positively comment on something that another student says instead of being negative about everything, how to positively disagree and create constructive comments. So that's a totally other lesson that you could create, and I suggest you do spend time discussing that before you send the kids into literature circles. Another guideline is staying on topic, redirecting those who aren't, and paying attention to the speaker. Waiting for others to finish speaking before adding a thought. Always try to get involved. Use a 6-inch voice and be prepared. Like I said, this could look different for every class, or you could create just a general expectation for all of your classes. I would not only have this in every binder, but I would, again, make a poster of it so that it's in the classroom and it's visible in multiple areas. So the second thing that the kids are going to see in their binders are the order of operations. And typically the discussion director is in charge of making sure that the order of operations is followed. And yours might look a little bit different, but this past year, this is what the kids were supposed to do and in what order. So the discussion director is going to lead the group members in a literature discussion. And what that means is each person is going to go through their specific role, and the discussion director has a sheet that says, this person goes first, this person goes second. So you're going to go through all of those roles, whether it's 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, however it may be. And then once all of the kids are done discussing the text that they've been given or the book that they've been given directly as relation to their role sheets, they're going to complete a self-assessment. So at the bottom of every worksheet, which you'll see later on, there's a self-assessment. So how did I individually as a person do? Did I participate? Was I prepared? Did I follow the rules and guidelines? They're going to reflect upon themselves and their peers. So at this point, they're going to turn that candle on to notify their teacher that they're done with the direct assignment. And while they're waiting for the teacher to come over, they are going to complete the peer assessment. And I started doing this on paper and actually moved to doing it on a Google form, which I have found a little bit easier because it's quicker to check to see the feedback. But I basically have asked the kids to grade their peers. Especially in middle school, they need a purpose for doing everything, and group work tends to be a little bit difficult at the middle school age level. So I found that at the end of every literature circle, the kids need to be held responsible for their behavior, not only as an individual, but as a group. So their peers are the ones that are going to grade them on their behavior, their effort, and their participation. About 90% of the time, the kids are really honest, especially when they know no one else is going to know who said it. They don't have to put their name on the sheet, so it can be anonymous. I really have very rarely found that kids are going to goof off or lie. And especially when multiple kids of the same group have said the same thing about the person, it's pretty true. So I have them grade themselves and their peers on a scale of like 1 to 5, 5 being the most productive, 1 being not productive. And then they have to explain why they gave that kid that score. So even if they gave them a 5, why did you give your peer a 5? Why did they get full credit? So it holds them responsible for justifying their thoughts. And then they need to turn in the following. So turning it in could mean a multiple of things. If you have bins that the kids have to turn things into, they could do that. I have them put them in the binders. Obviously, the peer assessments, they have to turn them in on the computer so that no one else sees them, but everything needs to be turned in to get graded. And if I haven't come over to kind of debrief with them, reflect with them, see what's going on, they have a list of what they need to be working on while they're waiting for the teacher or while they're moving on to the next thing. So it could be their independent reading, they could be taking independent reading quizzes, if there's homework, any missing assignment, makeup work, or they could be moving on to the next week's literature discussion. They could be working on next week's role or next week's reading. So the key is that there's no dead time, that they're not waiting for the teacher to do anything, that they know exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. And they're simply just occupying themselves productively while they are waiting for me to debrief with them. And the last piece of this, oh, excuse me, not the last piece. One of the last pieces to this is that sheet. So at the beginning of the novel, before they even start the novel, I have them assign roles to each group member for the whole book. So they are given a calendar that says what weeks they're going to be reading, how many roles they need to pick. So they need to fill this out for every week so that before they even start reading, they know what 5 roles or 4 roles or 6 roles, however long it's going to take them to read this book, what roles they're going to be doing every single week. And the key to this is making sure that the kids don't repeat a role. You want them to be practicing the different skills so they can't ever repeat for a novel. Obviously, when you move on to a different novel, they can repeat the role that they've already done. And as you'll notice, there are about 7 roles here. I don't typically have roles, or excuse me, groups that are 7 people. Sometimes I do, but I try to stay away from it. What I've found is you need to acknowledge what must-haves or non-negotiable roles there must be every week. And that typically is a discussion director, a literary luminary, and a summarizer. That's what I found are the 3 must-haves, like non-negotiable. If you have 5 kids in your group, 3 people need to be always doing those roles, and then you can pick between the rest. And that just keeps consistency. You know, discussion director is important. You need a discussion director every week. So you want to make sure that the kids know if there's something that needs to happen every week, you're very clear about that. And the last thing are the roles themselves. So the kids need to fill out a worksheet to be responsible for something. And I have found that these work best, something that is simple, to the point, very clearly explained, so that when you go to grade it, it's easy to understand, and when the kids go to do it, it's also easy to understand. So this is just a sample. You know, we have a summarizer, the job is explained, and then they pick their summary. The questioner or the discussion director has to create 5 questions and they start off the discussion, but then they're also responsible for maintaining the discussion. We have the literature connector, so they need to connect to a text to self, text to text. The illustrator, this is what the kids like a lot. They have to draw a picture, and what I've found is they need to be able to explain the picture. So they have to write on the back the significance. Why did they bother doing this picture? And I think you'll find that as you go through, you'll create more rules and guidelines or must-haves. So I told the kids, you know, if it's in pencil, it has to be fully detailed, or you suggest that they have color. The more detailed they are, the better. Travel Tracer doesn't always work for all the groups, so I tend to not do it unless it's a specific novel, where you can track where a character is going. Like A Long Walk to Water is a great novel to use with a travel tracer since they travel a lot. That's a good one. Vocabulary Enricher, also known as Word Wizard, is a good one. Literary Luminary, you need to help the kids a lot with this one. Researcher, I've found, is a good one. And as you'll notice on all of these, it tells them what they need to do. It gives them tips. It gives them suggestions. So the point in this is that they're not coming to you a lot. So I hope all these 3 videos have really helped you. Yeah.